All right, everybody, ready for a deep dive? Today, we're talking about ptosis.
Ptosis?
You know that thing where your eyelids like, nah, I'm going to sit this one out.
Exactly.
You sent us some info on this.
Correct.
So we're going beyond the basics today. Turns out,
Yeah.
ptosis is about way more than just,
Right.
looking sleepy.
Mm-hmm.
It's about how your eyelids actually function.
That's right. And
Yeah.
sometimes it can even be a little clue,
Okay.
dropping a hint
Oh.
about other things happening in your body.
Okay, so the ptosis 101.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about that drooping upper eyelid, and it can be one eye or both.
Right.
Imagine one friend who's rocking that permanently tired look
Right.
while their other friend, hasn't slept since, last Tuesday. Both could be ptosis, just, different levels of droop.
Yeah.
We even have those fancy terms, right? Unilateral, meaning one eyelid, and bilateral, meaning both.
Exactly. And this is where it gets really interesting. These sources you gave us, they highlight that ptosis can range from barely noticeable
Okay.
to, in severe cases, actually blocking someone's vision.
Whoa, so we're not messing around here.
No.
It's not just a cosmetic thing, then.
It can be,
Okay.
but it can be much more than that.
This is where things get really interesting for me because you mentioned it can be a sign of something else going on, like a little
Yes.
warning light.
Often, yes. Think of your eyelids like a car's dashboard.
Okay.
Sometimes it's a minor issue, like needing an oil change, but sometimes it's signaling something bigger that needs a mechanic's attention. Understanding ptosis, even if you're not personally experiencing it,
Right.
is important.
Gotcha. Okay, so we've got this spectrum of severity from barely there to who turned off the lights,
Exactly.
and then potential underlying causes,
Yes.
which is what has me really curious. Hit me with the knowledge.
Let's break it down.
Okay.
Our sources point to two main categories of ptosis.
Yeah.
Congenital, meaning you're born with it,
Right.
and acquired, meaning it develops later in life.
Makes sense. So you're either, rocking that droopy eyelid from day one, or
Yeah.
something happens along the way to cause it.
You got it. And
Okay.
the causes within each category are surprisingly diverse. Let's start with congenital ptosis,
Okay.
where the most common type is myogenic ptosis.
Myogenic ptosis sounds pretty intense.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Don't let the fancy name fool you.
Okay.
It just means the muscle responsible for lifting the eyelid doesn't develop quite right.
So kind of like how some people are born with, a knack for languages, and some folks, well, let's just say they're better at other things.
Yeah, exactly.
Some eyelids are just wired a little differently from the get-go.
Exactly. It's usually not a big deal, but something to be aware of.
Okay.
Now, get this.
Okay.
There's another type of congenital ptosis called Marcus-Gunn jaw winking syndrome.
Jaw winking. Okay, now you have to explain this one.
Okay.
It sounds like something out of a fantasy novel.
Right.
Yeah.
Picture this. Someone with acosis opens their mouth, maybe to take a bite of a delicious apple,
Mm-hmm.
and their droopy eyelid suddenly springs up.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah.
Like their eyelid is connected to their jaw.
You got it. It's a rare neurological condition where the nerves controlling the eyelid and jaw muscles get a little crossed,
Wow.
like they're doing a synchronized swimming routine.
That's wild.
It's fascinating.
Okay, so we've got congenital ptosis,
Right.
the born this way category covered.
Yes.
What about acquired ptosis? The kind that develops later.
This is where things get really relatable
Okay.
because aging is often a factor.
Mm-hmm.
The most common form here is aponeurotic ptosis.
Aponeurotic ptosis, another tongue twister.
I know, right?
Yeah.
But it's actually pretty straightforward.
Okay.
Imagine a rubber band stretching and losing its elasticity over time.
Okay.
That's kind of what happens to the tendon that helps lift your eyelid as you age.
Okay.
It can weaken and stretch, causing the eyelid to droop.
So it's like how some folks get, laugh lines. Right.
Others might get droopy eyelid lines,
You nailed it.
a natural part of aging for some.
But here's the catch.
Okay.
Acquired ptosis isn't always about aging.
Okay.
Things like eye surgery
Right.
or even a past injury can also cause it.
Right. Because any trauma or disruption to that area could have a lasting impact, right?
Exactly.
It's not always as simple as, well, I'm just getting older.
Exactly. And a prime example of that is another condition that can cause acquired ptosis. Myasthenia gravis.
Okay. Myasthenia gravis. That one rings a bell, but remind me what it is.
It's an autoimmune disease,
Right.
which means your own immune system gets a little confused and starts attacking healthy tissues in the body.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, it affects the muscles, including those that control the eyelids. So someone could develop ptosis because of this autoimmune condition,
Yes.
even if they're, young and healthy otherwise.
Precisely. And that's why it's so crucial not to brush off ptosis as no big deal.
Right.
It's always worth getting checked out by a doctor
Hmm.
to figure out what's causing it, especially if it's new or seems to be getting worse.
Okay, so we've covered the different types of ptosis,
We have.
from those eyelid muscles marching to the beat of their own drum to
Right.
the wear and tear that comes with time.
Yeah.
We've also touched on potential causes, which range from it's just how you're wired to more complex conditions like myasthenia gravis.
Right.
But let's switch gears now and talk about what people should actually be looking out for. What are the red flags that might signal apoptosis is more than just a cosmetic concern? So, the drooping itself is a dead giveaway, right? But our sources mention some other things to watch out for, too.
Absolutely. And this is where, tuning into your body and noticing even the subtle changes becomes really important.
Okay.
Because besides that telltale droop, you might also find it harder to blink or fully close your eyelids.
Okay, that makes sense. If those muscles aren't working quite right, blinking could definitely be a challenge.
Exactly. And some people even find themselves constantly tilting their heads back or raising their eyebrows just to see clearly.
Wait, eyebrow fatigue is a real thing. I never would have thought of that.
Oh, it's real.
Wow.
If you're constantly putting in extra effort to lift those lids, your forehead muscles are going to feel it. It's like doing tiny, invisible eyebrow raises all day long.
Wow. I can definitely see how that would get exhausting.
Right.
So we've got the drooping, the blinking issues, the head tilting, the eyebrow strain. These can all be signs of ptosis? But you're saying they might be subtle, especially at first.
Exactly. It's like that old saying, a stitch in time saves 9. Early on, the signs might be easy to miss, especially if the ptosis is developing gradually.
Right.
But ignoring these signs could make things worse down the line.
Because catching it early is key, right?
You got it. Early diagnosis and treatment can make a world of difference, especially if there's an underlying condition involved.
Makes sense. Okay, so let's say someone notices these symptoms, maybe a little droop here, some difficulty blinking there. What happens next? What are the treatment options for ptosis?
Well, here's the good news. Treatment isn't always necessary.
Oh, okay.
If your ptosis is mild
Right.
and it's not messing with your vision or causing other problems, you might be good to go.
Okay.
Especially if you're not bothered by the cosmetic aspect of it.
So it's really about how much it's impacting your life, right?
Precisely. But for those who do need treatment,
Right.
there are a few different paths you can take.
Okay.
The most common one is surgery,
Okay.
specifically a type called blepharoplasty.
Okay, blepharoplasty. That's the one I've heard of.
Yes.
It's like eyelid surgery. Yes.
That's the one. And while it might sound intimidating, it's actually a really common and generally safe procedure.
Okay, so walk us through it. Sure, what actually happens during blepharoplasty?
Essentially, the surgeon makes a tiny incision in the eyelid crease and then tightens or repositions the muscles responsible for lifting the eyelid.
So it's not just a quick fix. They're actually going in and adjusting the muscle itself.
You nailed it.
Wow.
And in more severe cases, they might even attach the eyelid to muscles in the forehead to give it a little extra lift.
Wow, that's some serious precision work. Are there any non-surgical options for those of us who aren't too keen on going under the knife?
You bet.
Okay.
Eyelid crutches are a great example of a non-surgical option.
Eyelid crutches, what?
Yeah, think of them like little braces for your eyelids.
Okay.
They're these small wire loops that attach to your glasses
Oh, interesting.
and help prop up the eyelid. Now, they're not a forever solution.
Right.
They can be a really helpful option for some people.
Okay, eyelid crutches, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
It really isn't a one-size-fits-all situation, huh?
Nope.
There are options out there depending on how severe the ptosis is and what the individual prefers.
Exactly.
But I'm curious, is there anything people can do to prevent a ptosis in the first place? Any preventative measures we can take?
That's a great question. And this is where all those healthy habits we hear about really come into play,
Right.
especially for your eyelids.
Right, because a lot of the conditions that can lead to acquired ptosis
Yeah.
are linked to things like high blood pressure and diabetes.
Right. So while you can't completely eliminate the risk of developing a ptosis,
Mm-hmm.
especially the kind that comes with aging, you can make choices that support your overall health
Okay.
and potentially reduce your risk of those contributing factors.
So we're talking eating a balanced diet, incorporating regular exercise into your routine, finding healthy ways to manage stress.
Mm-hmm.
All those good-for-you things we know we should be doing anyway.
Precisely. And here's one you might not expect.
Okay.
Try to avoid excessive eye rubbing.
Oh.
I know. Everyone loves a good eye rub when you're tired. But all that rubbing and tugging can actually weaken the muscles and tissues in your eyelids over time.
Oh, wow. I am so guilty of that. I'm definitely going to have to work on breaking that habit.
It's the little things, right?
It really is. It really is. Small changes can make a world of difference in the long run.
Exactly.
Speaking of small changes, this next one seems obvious, but it's worth repeating.
Okay.
Protecting your eyes from injury.
Yes. Yeah.
Whether you're playing sports, tackling a DIY project, or even just opening a celebratory bottle of champagne wear protective eyewear.
Safety first. Absolutely.
Absolutely. So we've talked about healthy habits, protecting our eyes from injury, anything else people can do to be proactive about ptosis.
This one's key.
Okay.
Regular eye exams.
Right.
And I'm not just talking about getting your vision checked.
Right.
Those comprehensive eye exams are about so much more than just whether you need glasses or contacts.
Right. It's a chance for your eye doctor to get a good look at what's going on and catch any potential issues early on. They've seen it all.
Exactly. Think of it like taking your car in for regular maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
It's much easier and cheaper to address a small issue before it turns into a major problem down the road.
Such a good analogy.
Right.
It's a good reminder that our eyes are these incredible, complex organs that deserve a little extra TLC, just like the rest of our bodies.
Yes.
We only get one pair, after all.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
It's true. It's easy to kind of take our eye health for granted until,
Totally.
something goes wrong.
Yeah, we rely on our vision so heavily that we don't always stop and think about all the amazing things that they do and all the factors that can affect them.
Right.
The good news is a little proactivity and information can go a long way.
Absolutely. We've covered so much today, the different types of dichosis,
Right.
those, sneaky causes,
Yeah.
symptoms to watch out for, treatment options,
Yeah.
and even ways to, be proactive about your eye health.
I'll be proactive.
That's a lot to take in.
It is a lot,
Yeah.
but it's all valuable information.
Right.
And it's clear from the sources you shared that you're really dedicated to understanding this, which is fantastic.
Definitely. I'm all about learning, especially when it comes to, health and well-being.
Of course.
I have to say, this deep dive into ptosis has been, eye-opening, no pun intended.
Love it. It's always a pleasure to talk about these topics with someone who's so genuinely interested.
Well, before we wrap up, there's one thing that's been kind of swirling around in my mind from the research you shared. It mentioned that if ptosis is left untreated,
Yes.
it could potentially increase the risk of developing astigmatism.
Okay.
And I was thinking, could that be because a droopy eyelid might, put pressure on the cornea over time,
Right.
which then, affects its shape?
That's a really insightful observation.
Yeah.
It makes perfect sense, considering what we know about how even the slightest pressure on the cornea can affect its curvature.
Right.
It's definitely worth bringing up with your eye doctor.
Exactly. And that's what I find so fascinating about these deep dives.
Yeah.
They always leave me with more questions and a thirst to, learn even more.
Good.
It's like opening one door leads to a whole hallway of other doors.
And that's the sign of a true learner. Never stop questioning, never stop exploring.
Well said. On that note, we'll leave you with this final thought. Never underestimate the importance of your eye health. If you're experiencing any unusual symptoms or if you just haven't had an eye exam in a while, don't hesitate to schedule an appointment with your eye doctor.
Knowledge is power. And when it comes to your health, being informed and proactive is the best gift you can give yourself.
Couldn't agree more. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into ptosis, everybody. Until next time, take care of those amazing eyes.